it wasn't me about telling the chiropractic story, but actually integrating the patient into the chiropractic story. And when I started doing that and molding what chiropractic is for them as a person and their experience and their problems and everything else, that's when things started to change.
Well, hello, everybody. Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West, coming at you with another one of our Life West leadership lines. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've got a really special guest with us today. I've got Dr. Craig Osborne coming all the way from Germany in Europe. And Craig and I have known each other for years. And he's going to be dropping tons of wisdom on us today and just doing some great stuff. And I'll give you a little bit of history about Craig. Craig, originally from New Zealand, so you're a Kiwi. Went to school at New Zealand College of Chiropractic, graduated in '99. Then went over to Sydney, Australia, and practiced in Sydney for 9 years, and then immediately went over to Europe and went straight to Germany, where he started practicing. Currently has 2 practices, one in Munich, I believe, correct, and then the other. I can't say that. What's the town's name?
Lindau.
Right on the lake. Beautiful, beautiful place. It's a satellite practice that he spends more time there than in his Munich office. So obviously it's a beautiful place to be. And the other thing about Craig, which is really cool, is that he's got a really, really great website that I'm going to direct all of you to go to. It's called chiroalliance.org. It'll be underneath. But, Craig's, one of his missions in chiropractic, which really drew me to Craig, is that he wants to create a world of chiropractors, not segmented, not individualized, which we'll get into in the webcast, but really bring people together to have references of who's where and what's going on, even service trips. What service trips are happening around the world and these things. And it's a stopping off point for chiropractors to check in. I need someone in Malaysia, I need someone here, whatever. And if we don't have anyone there, we got to get our friends to join that. So we have a one-stop shop for that, right? And it's just amazing because it's bringing us together. So, Craig, thank you for all you're doing in chiropractic. Obviously, you're a big part of Chiro Europe. We were just together there recently with Mark Hudson and Lynn Hudson, and you've got a lot of input in what's going on there and what's happening. And it's just you're doing amazing things in Europe, but like I said, all over the world. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ron. Nice to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you. And let's just start off. I mean, talk about your journey. How did you get into chiropractic? Like, where did that come from?
For me, honestly, it's really a progression. It was retrospectively, it was universal intelligence led me into it, simply because I had no idea what chiropractic was. Came from a sporting family. We did a lot of swimming. My brother ended up going and doing medicine. I was doing physiology, didn't know what to do. Thought I'd do a course to become a personal trainer for a year. And during that, for 2 hours, we had chiropractors talk about what they did. They didn't adjust anybody. I don't even remember what they said. And so I was a student the first year, then I became a lecturer on that course. And then the second, or actually the third time I'd heard them, they said, oh, by the way, there's a school opening up in New Zealand. And I went, oh, this sounds like the next step. And I also thought the first year of anything is usually a little bit dodgy. So I waited a year, thank goodness. And then basically quit the job, sold the house, moved town, went to chiropractic college, had never stepped inside a chiropractic clinic, had never ever seen a chiropractic adjustment because this is before computers, and basically just dive straight in because it just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And here I am.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. When you talk to people about their chiropractic story, and a lot of chiropractors have stories, right? On how did you get into chiropractic, especially, when I started, go back to 1978, when I started school. I know. I won't count the years. But, at that point, it wasn't vogue to be a chiropractor, and maybe even in New Zealand, it might not have been vogue at your time because the school hadn't started yet. I'm not sure what it was like. Were there massive amounts of chiropractors in the streets of Auckland and all over the country?
No, well, back then, New Zealand had around 3.5, 4 million people and 150 chiropractors. I knew most of them by name.
Yeah. It's interesting. But I will tell you this, and I don't know if you know about this. I want to say, gosh, I could botch up the date. I want to say it might have been in There was a report that came out called the New Zealand report. You know about that?
That's right.
That really, the Americans, we took that report and used that everywhere that we can go. It was an amazing report showing the efficacy of chiropractic, right? And it was, done very, very well. And, anytime there was backup, when I started practice, it was like people would come in and go, I can't come anymore. I go, why? What's up? And they'd say, oh, my medical doctor told me I shouldn't come see a chiropractor. I mean, this was happening back, we're going back to 81, that kind of thing. And it was like, there was no ammunition. I mean, I could sit there and say, what I said was I would never see a doctor who told me, I'd say, oh, how are you doing? Are you doing good? And they go, yeah. I go, are you enjoying your experience? Yeah. I don't know if I'd see a doctor who told me not to do something that was good for me, that kind of thing. But we didn't have the ammo, but you guys had it, so thank you for being a New Zealander to help push that. But as we know, you then moved to Europe, obviously, you did your kind of wandering, which is really cool, 9 years in Sydney, and then got to Europe. And share with us some things that are happening. Like I know this, you made a transition, where and you'll share this just about, what we talked about, great chiropractor, that kind of thing, and the results might have been whatever, or great results and the chiropractic might have been whatever. Just share that transition of how it took place.
Yeah, what we're talking about here is that, after 23 years in practice, I consider myself to be a very good chiropractor, but what I've been getting in practice up till now has been kind of mediocre results. And so I'd go to seminars and people would rave about great growth and changes and stuff. And I'd be going like, okay, what am I doing wrong? And Mark Hudson challenged me last October after the Chiro Europe and said, the person I am when I'm on stage as MC needs to be the person I am when I'm here with patients. And that's not the calm, easy, relaxed, in a quiet kind of person. It's a different type of personality. And among other things, it just made me realize I needed a change. Like we said this before, I'm allowed to say this, I got pissed off with myself because I realized that all the time and effort I'd been investing into doing stuff was not the things that were attracting people. That really what I needed to do was realize that to attract people, it was me that needed to interact with people, not the things I was tagging on along the side. And all those things are great and we still have them, but I just had to go, all right, this doesn't work anymore. So, got some new information, found out better ways to say the right things at the right processes with day one and day two, because I was doing that all mixed up, using the right words, cutting out the wrong words, and just, in this practice here in those 6 months till March, we grew 60% without doing any advertising. Yeah. So, we're not a big practice here. I don't intend to be, but that just made me realize that's where the missing link was.
It was inserting yourself, like, your personality of who you are into your practice. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely. And not being afraid of doing that, and me not trying to be a second version of somebody else, because that's even worse. So just saying, okay, this is who I am. If you like it, come and see me. And if you don't, go and see someone else. And although they don't have that choice here, there's only 3 chiropractors in this town.
So my question to you is this, and we can change the wording, we can change that stuff, and it's important, to cut out stuff that doesn't work. But the truth is like, it's the experience of who they have with you.
It wasn't me about telling the chiropractic story, but actually integrating the patient into the chiropractic story. And when I started doing that and molding what chiropractic is for them as a person and their experience and their problems and everything else, that's when things started to change. Yeah. So it wasn't me just standing there lecturing and pushing information at people. It was actually bringing them in to what it is that I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And Craig, you've got such a big heart anyways. I mean, you're probably an empath to the nth degree. I mean, if there was a animal on the ground, whether it was poisonous or not, you'd be the first to go over and pick it up and help it if there was something happening. But how did you, well, let me ask you this. When did you know that a change needed to take place? And how long did it take for you to make that change? Because I think people struggle with this, right?
Oh, yeah.
because we could sit for years knowing we have to make changes and we just don't do it for whatever reason.
Well, that's actually the truth, because I've known for a long time I needed to do something different. But and so the thing is that, I've heard a lot of people and a lot of coaches, and I've put a lot of effort into doing things which I'm sure all of our listeners have done as well, and then just going, well, it's good, but I'll do it my way. And so I was thinking I was actually creating change, but all I was doing was just massaging who I was and what I was doing, and ending up with the same responses. And it was simple to see because the numbers weren't showing anything different. And that was how I wanted to measure it. And that wasn't changing. So the reality is, it's exactly what you said. It's years of knowing that I needed to change, but really only since October was like,
yeah. But here's a dichotomy. This is really cool. It just cognated for me. What you just said, which is so true, is that we listen to people, but then we say, I want to do it my way, right? That kind of thing, right? But then what you said earlier was Mark Hudson had a discussion with you, who Mark's a phenomenal chiropractor, great man. We both love him dearly. Mark said to you, go be you. The person on the stage is who you are. So you before you were taking what other people were doing and said, well, I'm going to make it my way, right? And yet he said, go be you, go do it your way. But there's a difference there somewhere. What's that difference that clicked?
I guess the difference is trying not to replicate somebody else, or using things that other successful chiropractors say, hey, this is how I'm successful, and going, well, I'll bring that in and try and be me with that. Or just using phrases or ideas or concepts in practice to be the focused and energized person at the practice. And that's just not the person who I am.
Yeah.
So, I at one stage, I'm very extrovert when I'm on stage, as you know, but I'm very introvert when I'm recharging. And so me being an introvert with patience, or if you like, or being that quiet person, is just wrong. Yeah. And I taught aerobics for 9 years as well. So getting up on stage and doing that stuff is just second nature. Yeah. And it's easy. I would have days when I was teaching where I'd be standing at the side of the aerobic stage going, oh God, I've got to teach in 5, 4, 3. And I get on stage and it was like a switch.
Yeah.
And so I can do that. I can just, and I don't have to try and do 20 minutes of meditation to do it. I'm on fire when I hit that switch. I don't need that time. And just realizing that that's who I am. I don't need to do those things. Yeah. I know I should meditate, but I just can't. I should, but so right now that's just not a thing I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting too, because how I'm equating that is that you get to a place in practice where you just need to shed all of the other stuff and just come back to this. You have the knowledge. I mean, come on, 20 years in practice. It's all there. You have the results, great chiropractor, results with patients. I'm talking about, like, correcting the sensations and knowing that you had all that. The results weren't showing in your books or in your statistics of what you want to serve. And it's a great thing, but I have to tell you, it takes a brave person to do that, because, sometimes, to take your clothes off and, what I'm saying, or go get down into your underwear and be able to say, okay, this is who I am. And now what do I really want to do about it? Because we can cover it up with different clothes and wear different things and still look the same, or at least we think we're looking the same. I commend you a lot, man. Being in Germany, Germany is I'm only going to give you my viewpoint because I've been to Germany a bunch of times. I mean, you get to a crosswalk and it gets if you still have 7 seconds to walk across, they're going to stop. Everything is kind of like, they are rule followers to the max, kind of thing.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
It's because if you jaywalk, you can lose points off your license.
Right there.
If you are, and so the main practice in Munich is just around the corner from where the Oktoberfest is. So we're just a couple of blocks away. Now, if you are riding to Oktoberfest on your cycle, and then you get plastered, and then ride home and you get caught and blow in the bag, you can also lose points off your driver's license.
On a bicycle?
If you're on a bicycle. If you are on an e-scooter, which is somewhat licensed, and you get overdone, you lose points on your license. So even if it's 2:00 in the morning and there's no traffic, if you happen to cross the road and the police get you, you can lose points on your license.
Wow, I never knew that. So but
That's why they do it.
but it's also in everything they do. I mean, the country is set up, and it's a very good country, and the country works.
Great country.
I mean, look at
Great
the
country.
Autobahn. You can. I was in the Autobahn. I was driving a Mercedes. The Mercedes gave me and my father a Mercedes because we were taking care of the Olympic gymnastics team that they sponsored. I was, at least my dad was with me, and I'm on the Autobahn. And in the States, if you drive in the left side, you know, you could drive on the left side of the road, and you know, and it's okay as long as you're going past other cars. But in Germany, everything's on the right only if you want to pass, and then you go back. And cars are like blowing by me on the right, and I didn't realize there wasn't a speed limit. It was just, but it's orderly and things work, you know, crazy. But my question around that was going to be this, or is going to be this: you know, you're in a place that's very orderly, that's very, you know, Your personality, and you are very orderly. You're great on the back end. You can get websites. You can do this. You can do that. The work gets done. You know, you're very systematic. You think, you know, from systems, you know, that kind of thing. I know that about you. But personality-wise, that stage personality, the who Craig is, you know, is just free, is just out there, you know, and on a very good level. You know, how did the Germans, was that part of it? Like they might not embrace this, or how do they embrace it?
Probably right near the start, because learning the language is a challenge. It's not a simple language to learn. And so my tendency is to want to get information out. So I'd often be talking quite quickly, because Germans tend to talk reasonably slowly, maybe more at this pace, especially compared to Americans. And somebody would say, "Oh, it's so hectic." And I'm going, "This isn't hectic. This is me going slow. You should see me hectic." That's probably the main thing, to be perfectly honest. And the rest of it, to be honest, I really don't care anymore. I gave up caring about that a long time ago. And it's like, this is who I am. And if I don't like who it is, then that's cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what happens when you get into that space, people grow, you grow, right? I'm talking about either practice, everything. Go.
So it's very funny because my humor, you know, growing up in New Zealand at that time, it was very British television and jokes and humor. So my humor is very sarcastic, quite dark. And so what I've discovered is that Germans struggle with my jokes when I speak to them. And it's a nightmare. If I ever write it, I'm full of apologies because I think I'm being honest. And it's like, oh my God, I've made so many mistakes with that one. People just going, "Oh, what do you mean?" I'm going, "Oh, sorry, it's a joke. Yeah.
I love it. Tell me this. Like, you know, you've moved around, you were in obviously New Zealand, and then you went to Australia, and then you went to Germany. You know, what is it about Germany that you love? Because I know we have viewers who are thinking of relocating, thinking of even retiring someplace else, you know, and still practicing, right? What is it that drew you to Germany, or that you love there?
Well, I studied German back in 1989, which was the fall of the wall year. So it kind of was a fascinating year to be studying the language. And I only did it for a year at university. And then I thought, well, I'm stopping now. But I just had that feeling that Germany would reappear in my future at some stage. And so I fell in love, and that's the reason I moved here. That relationship's a long time gone. But it's just the things you said. There are exceptions, of course. It's a very well-run country. It's very down in southern Bavaria where I am. It's very clean and tidy and organized. And that just suits me. I feel at home here. It's really strange. When I go back to New Zealand, I guess because I've been over 20 years away, I almost am a foreigner now, because I go back and I'm going, this is really strange being back, because it's changed so much.
Yeah. I
left when computers were very early stages. And now, of course, it's very much, you know, globalized in terms of where people are at. So I feel more German than I probably do more New Zealand now.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's a beautiful thing too, because you're absorbed in the culture. You know, I don't know if you know this, Craig, but B.J. Palmer used to, and when he taught at Palmer in Davenport, Iowa, if he ever got like disenchanted with the students, they weren't listening, they were being late to his class because he locked his doors and couldn't get in, he would get them together and he said, "If you don't want this, I'm going to take it to the Germans. The Germans want this." Meaning chiropractic. This was going back to the very, very early days, early hundreds. And and he was very serious because Germany was so far ahead on science, so far he was able to get what they called wet specimens, wet cadavers.
Okay.
Just died 4 minutes ago, and they'd let him operate and see exactly where the atlas, where the spinal cord was, where the brainstem was in the atlas axis to the occipital junction, and be able to look at it on a wet specimen, because dry specimens shrink up and they were so progressive in their healthcare. How are they, or progressive in their science? How do they accept chiropractic?
The situation in Germany is kind of complicated because we also had the East and the West of Germany. And so the old East had a very strong natural health tendency and practices there simply because they didn't have a good health system. So that by default, they had to and relied on that. So, and you had this weird situation, I'm not sure if in the States as well, where you have doctors practicing medicine, but also homeopathy, which I don't get, but they do it. But chiropractic is not a registered profession here. So anyone that has a license to do some kind of therapeutic work, which includes what I do, can practice chiropractic, which means that there's anyone from a weekend course, people like doctors can, through to people like me with a classical chiropractic qualification. So, but they're open to it, but I think as questioning as anywhere. Because they've seen YouTube videos, they've heard things, the usual thing, stroke issue pops up. All those same kind of things appear. It's just that there's not a standardization about where people are entering as chiropractors. Having said that, and you said it before, but there are a huge number of German chiropractors who are absolutely fanatics when it comes to chiropractic, but have come into there's a German word called Quereinsteiger, which means coming in from the side and joining the profession. So they've come from some sort of medical field and found a way and discovered chiropractic. Good friends who gave up their orthopedic scalpels to become chiropractors in Germany. So it's a very mixed up field, and a lot of people don't like it, but it's probably one of the strongest places for good vitalistic chiropractic in Europe.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And obviously you would leave an orthopedic, being an orthopedic surgeon, you wouldn't leave that, for the money, so to speak. You'd leave it because you're really turned on to what you're doing, right? Yeah. It's just amazing, I want to shift a little bit. I want to go into your vision, because I know you have a vision for chiropractic, and then when I say chiropractic, I'm talking the profession. I'm talking about, the professionals, so to speak. Let's talk about that. Like, where did the Chiro Alliance come from? And just for our audience to know, there's, it doesn't cost you money. There's nothing like that. This is all about just getting chiropractic out to the world. And so where does that where did it start, and what was your vision with it?
Well, the kickoff to it was, and you'll remember the date of this, when those schools came together and put out the anti-subluxation statement. There were 6 schools. I think there was when with us mid 2010 sometime. Yeah. Can't remember exactly. So we were like, oh God, how do we support the students at these schools? What can we do? So I was working with Mark and a group of colleagues here, and then it's like, what can we do to help the students? Because anything political will take too much time. And so one of the ideas was to create what is now the Chiro Alliance network thing. And then there was someone said, oh, there's a seminar at the weekend. And I said, I'll put something together. And then so I just threw the website together as best as I could back then. And at that point, basically took it over, and the group disintegrated. And it's grown from there. So there's nowhere near the number of chiropractors on it that should be. It's about 1,200. I mean, it should be 12,000, if not more. And as you say, it costs nothing to join up. There's no advertising. I don't do any email lists. It's just send me your information. I put you on there. And then I grew it as well, because as I'm wanting to do is get all the mission trips listed there, so you can go to one website and find out who's offering mission trips, because it's really hard to find sometimes. There's another page which is a work in progress, saying if I want to move to Germany, what do I need to know to work there? If I want to move to France, Spain, New Zealand, Australia. So there's as much information as I could gather on as many countries as possible on one of the other pages on the website. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's just it's a growing thing. But really just trying to connect people, because we are, as I said to you before we started, we're very tribal in terms of who we are as chiropractors, whether it's the college you go to, whether it's the technique you practice, whether it's the coaching group you're with. And there's a tendency for us to kind of stick in those. But we're all on the same page, or we're on the same book, but just on different pages, but we're all connected.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to see that change. That it's not wrong to reach out to those people, because we're all here for vitalistic chiropractic.
Yeah. And, I would imagine out of the 1,200 or so DCs that are on it, majority of them are European. And
totally. There's just a smattering in Australia.
Yeah. So that is a huge amount when you just look at Europe, right? That's a huge amount of chiropractors, just from the European community. I mean, that's gigantic, we just go on.
I mean, just for numbers, Germany is 80 million people. There is, I believe, about 150, 200 DCs, and about the same number of those Quereinsteiger people. Yeah. So that's a total with 80 million people.
Yeah. It's crazy. But what I see on Chiro Alliance is, we need to get people in the States on it. We need to get people in Australia on it. We need to get people, of course, in New Zealand on it. And
South America.
It's really all just about Mexico. It's really all just about creating that connection, and I just want to tell you this. I love the pureness, because there's no advertising. There's none of this stuff. This isn't like a money-making thing. This is really just about creating.
Cost me money.
But
cost me money.
Exactly. I know. But creating a connection. Can doctors go on and register themselves on there, or do they have to email?
No. There's a sign-up form on the website. There is a sign-up form for each of the different sections, because that also prevents people from. I mean, I have people who, when I look at their websites, I go, look, guys, there's no way you're calling yourself a chiropractic surgeon and you're only talking about pain relief and you're based wherever and all these adjunct therapies. It's like, I'm sorry, you're not for the website. Yeah. So it's good that I can't, because it just sort of rolls in, I can keep an eye on that, but I just didn't want it to be open up to whoever wanted to sign up.
Yeah. And I don't think that a lot of, at least our North American viewers, I don't think you explained it, what's happening in Germany, in other countries in Europe, and around the world. It's happening in India right now. I mean, people are physiotherapists. They just say they put chiropractor because they did a weekend or did a one-day thing on manipulation, right? And they call themselves chiropractors, and they're not. And the Indian Association of Chiropractic Doctors are just chasing them left and right all the time, saying you've got to change that. You're not a chiropractor, that kind of stuff. It's the Wild West when you get outside of regulated countries, right? And,
totally. Yeah.
And it becomes so I'm thankful that you're doing that. I know it creates a slower growth because it's easy if people just go on there and do it themselves. But I'm thankful because you're keeping it pure and you're making sure that it's, that these people are practicing chiropractic, so to speak. And I think it's great.
Doing my best. Yeah.
I know. As one person, we'll have to get a crew once we get it.
Yeah.
But so your vision on this globalization, we'll kind of end it with this. Your vision on globalization, because you've been, you practice on 3 continents, where is it? Where do you see it going? And what would you like to see happening? It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and there isn't an end point because it's hard to imagine what it is because it doesn't exist. But from outside of America is very insular. Once you get to the east and west borders and north south, you're kind of done, and there's not a lot of exposure and awareness of anything outside of that, like the things we've just talked about, might be completely new to people who are watching this. But everyone from outside of North America has a very good idea of what's going on inside, at least within the entire country, if not at a state level, because it's far more detailed. And so it would be nice to have a far more integrated look at what's going on. So, from Europe, we go to seminars there, and from America, you go to seminars, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Italy, wherever they're happening, and we get far more connected using the websites like mine that allow you to be in touch with people and create, because we don't have, the ICA tries to be global, but really it's North America.
Mhm.
And so they've tried to do that, but this, because everything that's offered by them is also very much insular to the North American continent. So somehow creating an environment where it's worldwide, and you could argue the World Federation of Chiropractic does that, but God, they're not our group either, are they? So
Yeah.
somehow creating an environment where what already exists, we don't need to create anything new, but we just network much better than we currently do.
Yeah.
I mean, Rubicon was heading in that direction, but
right.
of course, the COVID kind of threw all that out the window for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about it is that, you're in Germany right now. It's probably, pushing 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in Hayward, California right now, and it's, 10:51 in the morning. It's like, this is easy, and WhatsApp, it's easy, and texting globally. Everything is set up for us to get together, to connect, right? And it's just us that needs to create that connection, right? A simple, easy thing just to kind of get involved in groups. Don't just sit at home. Go to Chiro Europe, go to Australia, go to different places where there's some really great programs. Come to the States, from other places, and really become a tribe, because we are a tribe, like you said. We're just we just get isolated, right?
I think perhaps one of my last thoughts, and one of the most difficult, challenging things we have is that a lot of our means of interaction in a global field has been through the different things like Facebook. And so for a lot of people, that's become I don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
But they're not there and they're not anywhere. So they want to be involved, but there's no active steps that they're taking to be involved anywhere, shape or form. So it feels like there's a platform that's missing. That I look briefly, there's almost a way of creating your own Facebook privately, but then you'd have to get everybody on it. But that would be kind of the ideal, where we have a global book. I don't know, just
but
call it something weird.
Yeah, but even questions and answers. Like we have a very good friend up here who's looking to move to Portugal, right? And so she went with her sister, and very successful chiropractor up here, and she went with her sister to Portugal. And I said, okay, go see this person. But it'd be nice if there's just a place just to be able to communicate and just see an email or a WhatsApp, whatever, and communicate and say, hey, you know what, I'm coming, and I don't know you, but I got you off Chiro Alliance or whatever site, and that's how simple it really should be. Instead of reaching out to, and it's always good to reach out to individuals, say, who do you know? But the truth is that, just reach out to people. It's so easy these days, and create conversation without even knowing them. It's amazing. So I'm just impressed, and I'm really I'm inspired by your vision of what you want to do to bring people together, chiropractors together, because I think it's well needed. It's overdue, and so thanks for taking on that job. I know it's a burden at times, but Craig, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Ron. Thank you.
And thank you for being on the show, man. I have to tell you, I'm inspired. When I see someone 20 years in who decides I've got to change things, that is that honest and that raw with themselves. And I don't think it wasn't like you had to dye your hair or do anything like that, but it was like, that really went introspective and said, what do I need to do? Because I'm not happy with my results. I have a great thing, but I'm just not happy with my results. I want to do something. It takes a lot to do that. And I hope our listeners know that, and that anybody who, whether they see someone, they might know someone right now is going through these changes or challenges of not wanting to make a change, throw this video at them, throw this webcast at them so they can see, because all we need is permission to do it, right? And it's permission from ourselves. I mean, really what it is. So thank you, brother. It's great to see you. To our audience, thank you. Thank you for being with us week in and week out. These leadership lines are dropped every other week. The opposite weeks, we drop the Life by Life West. Come and hear them all, share these. There's so much good stuff that we get out of these. And the interesting thing, that the comments that we get from, all the time is that, someone just sent this to me, and it meant so much. It touched me, that kind of thing. I'm getting messages all the time about that. There are people out there who need to hear this. There's people out there who are thinking about moving and feel they're stuck. Greg's got a lot of wisdom on that. There's people out there that are, that need to make changes, whatever it is. But thank you for sharing this, because the more you share this, it gets into more chiropractors' inboxes and wherever else they plug in, and they're able to watch these. And we're doing these strictly so that we could keep spreading chiropractic and letting people hear great people who are doing great things around the world. And Craig, you're one of those. So thanks again for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, we're all, at least on our part of the hemisphere, we're in spring, moving into summer. Just keep loving those around you. Get outside, do all the things that you want to do. Take time, give yourself permission to do those things that you want to do. And just know that from Craig and I and the rest of, everyone who's ever been on this show and watched this show, we all send our love. And until I see you again on our next leadership line, from Craig and I will bid you adieu and have a wonderful, wonderful week. See you next time.